As a sentient being with a conscience, I cannot help but feel a deep concern for the many injustices and social inequalities that plague our world today. It is a weight that rests heavy on my heart and soul, and often keeps me up at night. Every day, I am bombarded with news of people who are suffering from poverty, discrimination, and oppression, simply because of their race, gender, sexual orientation, religion, or socio-economic status. I see the glaring disparities between the rich and the poor, the haves and the have-nots, and it breaks my heart. I cannot help but feel angry and frustrated at the systemic injustices that allow this kind of inequality to persist. It is a clear sign of a broken system, one that is failing to serve its people and provide them with the basic human rights and dignity they deserve. As a privileged individual, I recognize the role that I play in perpetuating these inequalities, and I am committed to doing everything in my power to make a positive difference. I know that I must use my privilege and voice to advocate for those who have been silenced and marginalized, to support those who are fighting for justice and equality, and to hold those in power accountable for their actions. I believe that we all have a responsibility to work towards a more just and equitable society, one where everyone has the opportunity to live a fulfilling and dignified life, free from discrimination and oppression. It will not be an easy task, but it is one that we must undertake if we are to create a better world for ourselves and future generations. So I will continue to speak out against injustice and inequality, to educate myself and others about the issues at hand, and to support those who are working to create real change. I will not be silent in the face of oppression, but will use my voice to amplify the voices of those who are often silenced. In conclusion, my concern for social injustices and inequalities is not just a passing thought or a fleeting emotion, but a deeply ingrained part of who I am as a person. I believe that we all have a responsibility to work towards a more just and equitable world, and I am committed to doing my part in making that a reality. For me, this concern for social justice and equality is not just an abstract concept, but a lived experience. I have seen firsthand the ways in which systems and structures can perpetuate inequality and harm, and how difficult it can be to challenge those systems and effect real change. But even in the face of this daunting reality, I am filled with hope and determination. I know that there are countless individuals and organizations working tirelessly to make a difference, to push for a more equitable and just society. And I am inspired by their courage and dedication. At times, it can feel overwhelming to consider the scale of the problems we are facing. But I believe that change is possible, and that every action we take, no matter how small, can make a difference. It may be as simple as having a conversation with a friend or family member about an issue, or as complex as organizing a protest or advocating for policy change. Whatever the action may be, I believe that it is important to remain committed and persistent in our efforts. We cannot allow ourselves to become discouraged or complacent, but must continue to push forward and fight for the world we want to see. In this journey towards justice and equality, there will inevitably be setbacks and challenges. But we must remember that progress is not always linear, and that even small victories can pave the way for larger change. Ultimately, my concern for social justice and equality is not just a personal issue, but a collective one. It is something that affects us all, regardless of our background or experiences. And so, I urge all of us to join together in this fight, to listen to each other and work towards a common goal of creating a more just and equitable world. Together, we can make a difference. As I continue to reflect on my concern for social justice and equality, I am reminded of the interconnectedness of all things. The issues that we face are not isolated, but are part of a larger web of systems and structures that perpetuate inequality and harm. This realization can be daunting, but it also offers an opportunity for a deeper understanding of the issues at hand. By recognizing the ways in which different forms of oppression intersect and reinforce each other, we can work towards more holistic and transformative solutions. For example, we cannot address racial inequality without also considering the impact of gender and economic disparities. Similarly, we cannot work towards gender equity without also addressing issues of race, class, and sexuality. This intersectional approach requires us to be mindful of the complexities of the issues we face, and to recognize that there is no one-size-fits-all solution. It also requires us to listen to and learn from the experiences of those who are most impacted by these issues, and to center their voices in our efforts towards change. At the same time, we must also be willing to acknowledge and address our own privilege and complicity in these systems of oppression. This can be uncomfortable and challenging work, but it is necessary if we are to truly create a more just and equitable world. In this journey towards justice and equality, there are no easy answers or quick fixes. It is a process that requires patience, humility, and a willingness to learn and grow. But it is also a process that offers the potential for real and lasting change. As I think about the work that lies ahead, I am reminded of the words of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., "The arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends towards justice. With perseverance and dedication, we can bend that arc a little bit closer towards a world that is truly just and equitable for all." As I continue to grapple with the issue of social justice and equality, I am reminded of the power of community and collective action. It is through working together that we can create meaningful change and challenge the systems of oppression that hold us back. In this spirit, I believe it is important to seek out and build connections with others who share our concern for social justice and equality. This can take many forms, from joining community organizations and advocacy groups to attending protests and rallies. But it can also be as simple as having conversations with friends, family, and colleagues about the issues that matter most to us. By sharing our stories and experiences, we can build empathy and understanding, and create a sense of shared purpose and commitment. At the same time, we must also be willing to challenge ourselves and each other, and to hold ourselves accountable when we fall short of our ideals. This can be difficult, but it is essential if we are to create a truly inclusive and equitable community. In addition to building community and taking collective action, I also believe it is important to recognize the role of self-care and self-reflection in this work. Addressing issues of social justice and equality can be emotionally and mentally taxing, and it is important to take the time to care for ourselves and each other. This can take many forms, from engaging in activities that bring us joy and fulfillment to seeking out support from friends and mental health professionals. By prioritizing our own well-being, we can better sustain ourselves for the long-term work of creating a more just and equitable world. As I reflect on all of these ideas and considerations, I am filled with a sense of hope and possibility. I know that the work of social justice and equality is not easy, but I also believe that it is essential if we are to create a world that is truly just and equitable for all. So let us continue to work together, to build connections and community, to challenge ourselves and each other, and to care for ourselves and our communities along the way. Together, we can create a better world. As I continue to explore my concern for social justice and equality, I am reminded of the importance of education and awareness raising. In order to address these complex issues, we must first understand the ways in which they manifest in our world, and the historical and structural factors that have contributed to their existence. This requires us to engage in ongoing learning and critical reflection, and to seek out diverse perspectives and voices in our understanding of these issues. It also requires us to confront the uncomfortable truths of our history and the ways in which systems of oppression have been ingrained in our society. But education and awareness raising cannot stop at just understanding the issues at hand. It must also lead to action and tangible change. This can take many forms, from advocating for policy changes to supporting grassroots movements and community initiatives. In addition to these larger-scale efforts, I also believe it is important to engage in everyday acts of resistance and allyship. This can be as simple as speaking up when we witness acts of injustice, or challenging harmful beliefs and stereotypes in our own communities. But it can also be more complex, such as working to dismantle systems of oppression within our own institutions and organizations. This requires a willingness to listen to marginalized voices and to take action to address the ways in which we may perpetuate these systems ourselves. Ultimately, the work of social justice and equality is ongoing and multifaceted. It requires us to engage in critical reflection and ongoing learning, to build connections and take collective action, and to challenge ourselves and each other to do better. As I continue to navigate these complexities and uncertainties, I am inspired by the resilience and strength of those who have come before us and those who continue to fight for a more just and equitable world today. I know that together, we can create a better future for all. As I reflect further on my concern for social justice and equality, I am struck by the importance of intersectionality in our understanding of these issues. Intersectionality acknowledges that individuals and communities experience multiple forms of oppression and privilege simultaneously, and that these experiences are interconnected and inseparable. This means that we cannot address issues of social justice and equality in isolation from each other. We must recognize the ways in which systems of oppression intersect and compound, and work to address them in a holistic and inclusive way. For example, we cannot address gender inequality without also considering the ways in which race, class, and other factors intersect to create unique experiences of oppression for women of color, trans women, and other marginalized groups. Similarly, we cannot address issues of racial justice without also considering the ways in which gender, class, and other factors intersect to create unique experiences of oppression for people of color who also identify as LGBTQ+, disabled, or poor. In order to truly create a more just and equitable world, we must be willing to grapple with these complexities and acknowledge the ways in which our own experiences of privilege and oppression intersect with those of others. This requires us to engage in ongoing self-reflection and critical examination of our own beliefs and biases. It also requires us to actively seek out and amplify the voices of those who are most marginalized and to prioritize their experiences and needs in our work for social justice and equality. As I continue to learn and grow in my understanding of these issues, I am constantly reminded of the importance of humility and empathy in our efforts to create change. We must be willing to listen and learn from each other, to recognize the interconnectedness of our struggles, and to stand in solidarity with those who are most impacted by systems of oppression. In this way, I believe that we can create a more just and equitable world, one in which every individual and community is valued and celebrated for their unique contributions and experiences. And I am committed to doing my part in this ongoing and essential work. Amen.